Sir, if I may venture an opinion.
I'm not really interested in your opinion, 3PO.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
All right, so there's like
Wes didn't even wait for the clip to stop. He's like, I got to go.
there's like 8 different scenarios with this thing, and I'm sure I'm going to miss one of them. So forgive me if I forget some kind of crazy scenario that could happen here. But Michigan, Ohio State canceled Saturday in wake of COVID-19 cases with the Wolverines. Coach Ryan Day says that the Big Ten athletic directors need to take. I'm sorry, I can't even get through this. They need to
Wes, you need me to read it.
They need to take a long look at this to make sure they made the right decision when in regards to the minimum 6 games. And I'm just cracking up because it's like I picture everybody sitting around the table at the beginning of the year going, "This is a great idea. I think we should at least have 6 games." And then when your best team gets left out, you're like, I think we need to reevaluate. I mean,
we should at least have 4. We meant 4.
Just 4.
In addition, if another Big Ten game for Saturday were to be canceled, the conference could move around games in an effort to get Ohio State to play. If Purdue, which canceled practice Tuesday to evaluate its latest COVID-19 testing, had to cancel against Indiana, the Big Ten could move around games or have Indiana, Ohio State play again. If the conference were not
The Hoosiers
to alter its rules and Ohio State were not to play Saturday, Indiana would be the East Division's representative in the conference championship game. Now, I know you're saying, Wes, that's not an opinion. Those are just statements. Here's the opinion. If Ohio State does not play another game and thus cannot play in the Big Ten championship unless they change that, then they should be automatically disqualified from the playoff discussion and possibly even the CP rankings as a whole. I mean, like, I don't need, how are you going to evaluate a team that's basically played half the number of games that most of these other teams have? So, and if that's the case, they've only played 5 games. They will have only played 5 games. Here's a fun side note before we talk about it more. Ohio State and Texas A&M's games both have been canceled due to COVID affecting their opponents. This is number 4 and number 5. I'm looking at you, scheduling people. Make it happen. Number 4 versus number 5. It's not going to, of course, but man, that'd be like a qualifier before the qualifier, right? So
I don't think either team would agree to that either.
No,
because
probably not.
It doesn't do either team a benefit to play that game.
But
I don't know. Jimbo Fister is just wild enough that he might be like, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, he's wild. I don't know. He probably would. I don't know. But
Ohio State would be like, no, we can't. COVID. There's just too much COVID. We can't. Just COVID.
Jesse, let's go ahead and start with you. So this one on Ohio State, like, should they be disqualified from the playoff conversation? Yes. I knew that was your answer,
we
but
said
I just
at the
wanted to hear
beginning.
it.
We're like, they're going to cheat their way in somehow. They're going to get together as the Big Ten. And they're going to be like, well, we just really want equal representation across the country. You made a rule, and just because you don't like how it's faring for you, you can't just go back and change it. Everyone else has made this work. Everyone else decided we're going to play this many games. We're going to do this. We're going to start here. They made it work. Just because you didn't have the same plan and you noticed that it wasn't working out for you, you don't get to go back and change it. And I'm sorry, COVID happens, but somehow other conferences have been able to adjust and make it happen and play and find other people to play. Get a soccer player. I don't care. Figure it out. And if you can't figure it out without changing the rules, you don't deserve to be there. Because if you quite literally have to change rules, you don't deserve it. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry at all.
And let's think about this in terms of past years. So the past couple of years, Ohio State has looked like a great team, but they've had that one game where they lost by a ton to Purdue, or they lost by however much to Iowa State. And it looked like a great team, but they had an off game. Well, I mean, the nice thing about not playing any games is you don't have that off game. But look, this is how it's going to go down, and you can quote me on this. the Big Ten is going to go back on what their original agreement was, because they know that their best chance to get a Big Ten team in the playoffs is obviously Ohio State. So
they should have snagged Notre Dame when they had the chance.
They're going to, yeah, they should have, but they're going to go back on
Notre Dame
their
plays
agreement.
hockey in the Big Ten.
Yeah,
should have snagged them.
But they're going to go back on it, and they're going to make sure that Ohio State gets a game this weekend. Somehow, some way, either they're going to go back on it, or they will go out of their way to make sure that Ohio State gets a game this weekend, just so they can play in that
or
championship
what they'll
game.
do, because I can see them being like, well, we can't play on Saturday, but this random Tuesday at 2:00, we're going to pull the boys out. They're going to go to the practice field, and we're going to have somebody come over and play. They're going to do something weird, and it's going to really annoy me. I'm going to be really mad. I'm going to hate them more than I do. And I am going to say it now. A&M deserves to be in that 4th spot over Ohio State.
I mean, they've won more games.
You know what? Yeah, they've won more games, and I get that Florida lost to A&M, but I'd probably say Florida deserves to be in that 4th spot.
Yeah. Well, I guess the committee right now is putting A&M ahead just because of that head-to-head, and that's all. But
yeah.
Matt, what do you think about the whole Ohio State thing?
Allow me to play devil's advocate for a minute.
No.
Don't.
No. I'm going to. I'm going to.
Please
listen. You cannot have a discussion about a national championship without including Ohio State in some extent.
Get out right now.
No, let me finish.
I can't tell if he's kidding.
No,
I know he's
let
kidding.
Me finish.
No, he's being that guy. He's doing it.
No, let me finish. So
can't.
Because thank you, Ross Pro. So the fact of the matter is that Ohio State's always in that mix. Always in that mix. A lot of that has to do with the legacy bias, as we like to call it, and that concept of including the teams, the blue chips that need to be in those situations.
The Kool-Aid.
Let them in. Let them in. You want to let them in? Let them in. That's fine. But let them in as one of 8 teams that you let in the playoff.
Fair.
Because here's what's going to happen. If you have an 8-team playoff, leave Ohio State at 4. That means they play what? 6 seed? Isn't that usually how that works? Doesn't 4 play 6? 1 plays 8, 2 plays 7, 3 plays 5. Something like that.
In an 8-team, it would be 1, 8, 2, 7. Yeah.
So let them in. So let them in. So let's say they stay at 4. That means they would play Florida.
No, when they play A&M?
They'd play A&M first.
They play A&M.
As things are currently.
So exactly. So that's exactly my point. So if you want to include them, sure, go right ahead. But you need to expand the playoff, and you need to make sure that you expose Ohio State, because Ohio State's going to get reamed. Let's get something straight here. A football team starts at the beginning of the season, and they look drastically different by the end of that season. Things get more streamlined. Injuries happen. Those 2 teams at the front of the season and the back of the season are 2 separate teams. You're taking Ohio State and cutting all that development in half. Do you really think Ohio State's going to be able to hang in that case? Nope. So sure, go ahead and include them in the CFP. But when they get beat 56-3 in the first bloody round of the playoff, you can't come complaining.
Yeah,
I'd be down for 8 teams. I'm okay with that.
See, so that's what I'm telling you. That's the fix. If the committee doesn't want to play this mishmash, we don't know what to do situation, you make 8 teams. Heck, even expand it to 10. Just say screw it and do 5 different games. What's it going to matter? 1 and 2 get a bye. Fine, who cares? But it doesn't benefit anybody at this point. If you're going to exclude an SEC team that's played twice as many games to include them, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
So go ahead, have an 8-team playoff. Let's see what happens.
Auburn's won how many games? 5?
Perfect year for it. Perfect year for it. It's an asterisk year, like we've been saying since September. In the long run, this year doesn't really count.
Yeah. And yes, Jesse, Auburn's won 5 games.
So Auburn's won more games than Ohio State. Who else has? What? Mizzou, maybe?
Florida. Mizzou's won 5 games. Georgia's won 6 games. Yeah.
Oh, I'm just trying to think of the not so great ones. But
yeah,
they've won more than Ohio State. No,
or at least
more,
the same.
But they've won more. So again, we're going back to portfolio play. Admit what you want.
I don't want to just pile on Ohio State here, because let's not forget that the ACC did the
No,
same.
let's pile on Ohio State.
No.
They
Hold
deserve to
on.
be piled
Hold on. I'm gonna hold on. Instead of not piling on, I'm going to pile on more on other teams, because
That works.
That's fun.
Clemson and Notre Dame have already done this in the ACC, where they basically just said, okay, the final game of the season, you know, that game that we're going to play and that reschedule game that we were going to play, we're not going to do those, and we're just going to rest up and get ready for the ACC championship. Which, I mean, they're skipping games as well, just because they want to. And everybody else outside of the ACC is scratching their heads like, what? But again, they want their teams in, so they're like, you know, obviously a game played, even if it's unnecessary, is a chance for a loss. Or a chance for injury, not just losing, but maybe somebody could get injured in those games as well. So
Miami's one more than Ohio State.
It's super frustrating. You have these conferences and you can watch everybody's playing their little game of chess and trying to get their teams. Each conference is playing that game, trying to get their teams in position to get in that discussion. And they're gonna do whatever they can to make it happen. And you're right. It shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be a choice. It should be, okay, all this stuff we agreed upon, we're going to do it. But 2020. So we'll see what happens for that.